And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Hans Wilhelm, mystic, author, and illustrator of over 200 books for all ages, including some together with Byron Katie. His books have sold over 40 million copies and are translated into 30 languages. Hans, thank you for joining me today and welcome.
Jeff, it's a pleasure and honor to be on your show. Thank you.
Thank you. Hans, I want to introduce you to my audience in a way that we can, learn about your spiritual journey. So can you tell us about how you got into spirituality in the first place?
Very simple. When I was young in Germany, I did not trust the teachings which came from the churches. There was something wrong with it, and I wanted to find out more. It was very difficult. There was no internet. There was nothing really to get other information. But it took some time for me, but I slowly got some information and had to find out if there is more to life than that. And also very soon I got involved with Edgar Cayce. I learned for the first time the existence of reincarnation, which was totally unknown when I grew up. And so I learned to accept more and more. And this was, as I said, I was young. I started with TM. I sort of learned my meditation then, which I no longer do at the moment, but it did help me at the time. And then one teacher after the other teacher. So this is now 50 or 60 years ago when I started this. And over the last sort of 40 years, I have sort of been very closely linked to teachings which came from Senta Lange and from Gabriele. And these teachings are from, she's a woman in Germany through whom a lot of very, very high information comes, revelations come, and which I haven't found anywhere else in such detail and such profoundness. And they totally respond and vibrate with me. And I find them for myself that these informations are the truth as I have never seen it anywhere else. And I share that now through my videos for those who are interested. I have zero interest to convince anybody. I just offer this material for free and without advertising, whoever's interested in it.
So what I want to let people know is that Hans has a YouTube channel and he's a professional illustrator, and he has lots of videos teaching different spiritual concepts that he illustrates along with the teachings. So we have a lot of things to talk about today. And first of all, what do you think were your biggest questions in life that, you wanted to get answers to in spirituality when you first started looking around?
I think the injustice in life. I couldn't see or understand why some people were lucky, some people were sick, some people were wealthy, some people were poor. And it just did make no sense to me. It says, how is this possible? If there is a God, if divinity, then this can't be true. Or this God has a very sick sense of humor. And as I said, once I recognized that reincarnation is true, and also that Christ taught reincarnation, which I think is very important to remember as well, then suddenly everything made sense again. Suddenly I understand why some people go through certain difficult times and other goes to less difficult times, and that everything what we are facing are basically stuff that we have sown in an earlier lifetime. And it made totally sense to me. So from that moment onwards, a lot of clarity came and also deeper understanding. So suddenly understand that everything that happens to us happens for us and nothing to us, and is there for us to wake up again to our true original state of being, which is pure love.
So you mentioned that some people are rich and some people are poor. Do you think that's because of a karmic account, or are they able to manifest it like in The Secret?
I think both is right. Karmic can be, let's for instance take a wealthy person. A wealthy person can be wealthy because the reason for his wealth is to share his wealth with others. If he uses his wealth just for himself, he will create new karma. And if somebody is sort of not wealthy and sort of uses the law of attraction like advertised and promoted in The Secret, then they can reach the wealth in their life, but we have to ask ourselves, where does this wealth come from? And is this wealth really that what the soul needs to experience in this lifetime? Is it a wish from our ego, from our insecurity, that we want to be somebody powerful, etc., etc.? If the desire for the wealth comes from that area, then there are countless spiritual negative energies, beings who can help us to make this wish come true. It's very easy for them to do that. So the wealth that we get, it's like a Faustian bargain. We get the wealth and they will serve us for that. And in return, we have to serve them later on in another lifetime or even in this one. So the wealth that we crave for because of our ego is the wealth that is usually very harmful. That's why I'm very skeptical about the teachings of the attraction law as done in the secret. I do not believe we are here to become wealthy, rich, famous, and whatever you want and whatever you wish and can think have it. There is such a danger in that because it may not be your purpose. For instance, if you wish a lovely villa somewhere on the beach one day, and you can get that through the law of attraction and strong desires, then you may get it, but you will not meet your life partner who is living in Texas right there, land inwards, and you miss this whole life because you have moved yourself away from your originally planned life form. And the other very important thing is whenever we have a very strong desire, like wealth, fame, recognition in every way, and we desperately want this, these are like anchors that we throw into the future. And when we probably die before that, before the event, these anchors are so strong, these are all vibrations, all emotions are vibrations, that can pull the soul back into another lifetime. The soul doesn't need to have another lifetime, but the anchor that the soul has thrown into the future in the present lifetime are so strong that they can pull a soul unnecessarily back into the life. So we have to be very careful. Everything is energies. We are energy, life is energy, matter is energy. There is no such thing like real matter. And our emotions, our thoughts, our wishes, our addictions, whatever they are energies. And our thoughts, and these energies are very powerful. And they have an attraction as well. So I would say be very careful what you wish for. It's, I think, was it Oscar Wilde who says, those who the gods would punish, they will have their wishes fulfilled or something like this, or be careful what you wish for. And I think that is very true here. Be careful what we wish for. Let us rather understand why we are here, what we are facing here in this life right now, if we are not wealthy, if we are sick, and so on. There's nothing wrong wanting to be healthy if you're sick. But there is a difference between wanting qualities to impress others, to build up our ego. Like wealth can be, fame can be, for instance, or power as well. These things are usually energies that are given through thought projection from the negative forces, because that's where they get us. And sex, of course. That's our weak points where we can easily be manipulated by what we call negative energies, which are brothers and sisters in the spiritual world who have just fallen so low that their energy level is so low, they have to drain us or other sources to sustain themselves. So basically they do this for energy purpose. They have no more energy left. Therefore, whenever we do something, what in these fields like financial and so on, we very often feel very drained. The energy is pulled out of us to these spirit beings, and they attach themselves to us, and it's not easy to get rid of them, as you probably have had many people on your show explaining that in much greater detail than I can do it here now.
So are you saying that these entities are human, previous humans, or completely non-human entities and something else?
Everything, all of it. There can be people, earthbound souls, for instance, somebody who has died and is not accepting the fact that he or she is dead, maybe earthbound and not move on, and still wants to have his drug habit continued because they like drugs. And they may find somebody who is sort of also on the verge of taking drugs, and they cling to them, usually in the back here, and attach themselves, and they continue their drug addiction through that person on earth. That is, for instance, a soul who has died before and it was earthbound. But not every entity has been ever incarnated here. But what they all are, they are brothers and sisters like you and me and everybody else, a child of God, who just have gone much further down the hill than you and I have gone. I think we have gone, but have lost all energy. And they are sort of very desperate for energies, and they drain the energy from other entities like ourselves.
All right. One of my biggest questions is, why do we keep coming back over and over again? I think you've kind of explained it on some level with your ego, but for other reasons, why do we keep doing this?
Largely, it's our ignorance lately, but I think we also have to look at what is the purpose why we do incarnate in the first place. The reason why we incarnate is a grace, a gift of God to have the earth, which is nothing but a schooling planet for our soul to undo our karma in the shortest possible time. If we understand as souls, we are all in the purification spheres before we return to the absolute reality. In the purification spheres, there is a law of like attracts like, which means that the soul are attracted or amongst similar souls, like all the Muslims are here, or the Orthodox are here, etc., and all the murderers are here, sort of we all amongst each other. And there is very little learning rooms. We are sort of friction. There is no friction. There's nothing to learn really. Plus the fact that we have no physical body, we feel our karma intensely. Our physical body is nothing but a protection, that our karma is not hitting us so much. So the karma that has come back to us also in the purification spheres can be exceedingly painful and very, very long. So the progression and the growth in the purification spheres is very, very long. Now we are given the opportunity to incarnate on planet Earth for a very short time. What is it, 30,000 hours or whatever, which is nothing compared to the eternal now. And this also is a proof that this is not here to our permanent home. It is a school. So we apply here to come here, apply is the wrong word, but we try to get here to get into a physical body. Before we get born, we have a discussion usually with our spirit guides who tell us more or less what's going to happen here on earth and what are our challenges, what are our weaknesses, our karma that we have to overcome. And we look at them and there can be very difficult situations, but we know that this is good for us. And we all full-heartedly say yes to the life that we are going to have. It is very important to remember in our darkest hours, which we may here on earth, that we have originally totally agreed to that. So then we incarnate to similar parents and so on, and we have our life. And here on earth, there we are having a rewinding of our lives, which means all our past lives are suddenly rewind here to us. They're coming back to us as karma. From the morning we wake up to the evening, everything that happens to us are basically stuff which we have once put into the causal computer, which are the repository planets where our karma is stored. And our karma can be, for instance, the person who just cuts us off in the road. It can be the wrong text message. It can be the person in the college, the colleague at work who upsets us. All these little things are building blocks of the day. None of this is accidental. Everything is created by us previously and now comes back to us. And now is our opportunity to undo this karma with love and forgiveness and making amends where we can. That is our total purpose for being here in life. Now, a lot of us are getting totally involved in and totally involved into the earthly pleasures. Remember the story of the prodigal son. He comes also down from pure heaven, from the home, and gets totally lost in the temptation of the world. And these temptations are powerful. I mentioned them earlier: power, sex, money, etc. I said, hey, this is great. And we can only live this out here on the earth. And a lot of souls get so attached to it that I want to come back. I want to come back. Never mind how hard it is. So a lot of people have a lot of unnecessary reincarnations. It is not the desire of divinity for us to come back here. This is only, it's like going over and over again to Yale University, over and over and over. Eventually it's finished. It's done with it. You should move on onto a higher level. So this is a very temporary existence, and we are here for a very short time, maybe once or twice, but unfortunately many of us have 100 times, thousands of lifetimes, because we still haven't understood that this is a school only. And our true existence is not here. Therefore, building here our riches, our kingdoms, and so on are so transient and so silly in a way. Because the same thing, if you would go to college and so on, and you suddenly start in college to build all the wealth and money, so it makes no sense. You do that afterwards. And that's what we do afterwards. That's when we get the riches, which is a spiritual richness, which we gain as we grow and progress and return back to the source from where we all came.
Are you saying the best way to resolve our karmic debt is whenever we experience something that's unpleasurable, negative, we just try to meet that with love and forgiveness?
Excellent. Yes, that's how I see it. All negativity, whenever we have a negative emotion, that is definitely something which needs to be cleared up. And in most cases, it's a law of correspondence. Whatever I see in the other person is in me, and I have to clear it up in me. If I'm upset about another person who does something X, and then it says, and that gives me a negative feeling, it says, I'm doing the same thing. Find out, where do I do the same thing? When have I done to this anybody? Is there anything I can clear up? So every time we have an emotional shock, an emotional reaction, sensation, that is a symptom that there is something in us that has not been loved and has not been dealt with lovingly and forgiven. All emotions are coming back. Emotions are basically all the lies we have told ourselves. And we have to understand them. And love is not an emotion. Love is just what we are. But the emotions tell us this is something, and even if we are hyperly, what's the word, attracted to something, which is I'm looking for the right words, so really addicted so and something, that is also an emotion which maybe feel positive initially, but it is an addiction, and this addiction is also something which is basically a negativity which we have to clear up.
Wouldn't you say that coming to the Earth School, you end up forgetting everything not in Earth School, your previous lives, reincarnation, everything? So it could also be like a trap, because it's so easy here to start accruing more karma than resolving it.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, there's, of course, it's meant as a blessing, the veil of forgetfulness, that the soul enters the earthly life here and forgetting totally that we are spiritual beings and we had many lifetimes. That is done so that we don't feel bogged down by remembering all the horrors we have done and have experienced in past lifetimes and feel guilty about it and bad about it. So there is a blessing for us that we forget all these things, and we are perfectly we appear like a clean slate. Of course, we are not. But that also is a danger, as you say. We can totally get involved, because it's full of temptation. The world is full of temptation, and has become so much more so ever since the computer generation, where we really have all the temptation delivered right to our home. You have the desire, wish, etc., everything few clicks away. And it is so dangerous to have that temptation in our house, and where the porn is probably one of the most video games where we really escape from ourselves and get addicted. And the more we do it, the more we want more and more stimulation, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And in the meantime, while we are doing this, totally absorbed on the computer and the video game, it is a negative energy sucking our energy out of it.
What is the best way that we can remove negative energies from our bodies?
Well, I've made a video. It's called Spirit Possessions. And I have made this, I think, on 4 or 5 books written by medical doctors who all had advice of how to deal with that. And in that video, I think I would like to, anybody who's interested that may want to watch that video, because at the end, I give some reference to that one. First of all, is to become aware of it. I think that's number one, to become aware of it, that my addiction, my constant desire to do something which I know in my heart this is harmful to me and to others, may be another entity. That is already the first big step. And then we can do with prayer, we can also learn to speak to that entity. It's another brother or sister who very often are not even aware that they are doing this, and that it's not their right to interfere with our life. So sometimes a word can be that. It can be prayer, it can be light. But I would rather suggest, I don't want to be here, I have no medical skills, and I'm also not a shrink. I rather prefer people reading or checking out some of the books which I recommend in that video, where medical doctors give direct step-by-step advice of how to do this. So that is my way I sort of pass it on.
Well, send me the link to that video, and then I will put that in the video description so then people can easily find it.
Allow me just to show your viewers that what I do There are many videos on spirituality. The only difference which I make is that I illustrate it. Because, like, for instance, here, when I illustrate the karma, like somebody's something bad to it, then I show how this karma is sort of stored in the Akashic records and in the repository planets and how it all comes back, etc. So by seeing me drawing these things, and seeing how all the dots connect, it made a lot of sense. And I do this video also largely for myself, because I'm the one who learns from it by seeing it. And so that is what my videos are different than most other spiritual videos, which I just have visual context, but I draw them out and see so that we can see exactly how everything connects. And the more I do it, the more I am at awe how perfect this whole thing is, and how ingenious simplicity and intelligence this whole universe is. I must say that doing this now for 10 years, I have learned so much and have also gotten so much more awe for the divinity and how it all works and everything, and our understanding that whatever happens to us is really happening for us and not to us, and everything is self-inflicted and self-created, and that we are never, ever a victim, which is very hard for many people to believe. And I respect that. But we are never really victims. Everything is created by ourselves, for ourselves, to wake up.
I'm going to jump around here a little bit. I've heard you say that the Christ in Christianity is not the same as Christ consciousness. If that's true, can you explain that for us?
Well, Christianity, I would say it is a teaching. When we say Christianity, we're teaching of the church organizations, which is different than the Christ, the way I understand Christ was. Very simple, the Christian organization basically says all, and this is Paul's teachings, that once you just have to believe in Christ, and Christ died for our sins on the cross. This is basically the teaching of most religious churches. In other words, you just believe in Christ, and there all your so-called karma is gone. That is not the case. Christ came, and he explains it in various of his revelation here, and to also, yes, to be an example for us to live. The Sermon on the Mount is probably the best tool he gave us to live by. And when he died, he implanted in every soul and the 4 lower purification spheres what we call a Christ spark in our soul, close to the 4th heart, 4th chakra. And that spark is a conversion thing, you can say. So whenever we have a problem or whatever this, we can use this spark, this energy spark, focus on it. He says that God is in us, the holographic universe. I made a video on that one as well, that everything is in us. It's not out there, it's in us. So in us is the entire universe, is the entire heaven, is God. We can go within and create in there that light bubble and ask for conversion. Christ says, I will convert your thing for you. You do basically it says, you do the crime, let the healing be up to me. But he's not taking it away from us. The most important step is remorseful. Be remorseful, that we understand we made a mistake. Otherwise, we would just repeat it. Otherwise, we will just easily do it. So we have to be remorseful and ask for forgiveness. These steps are important, to say we are deeply sorry for that one. And the remorse must become very deeply. The reason is why we must feel the remorse, because whatever we feel intensely will be stored in our body. That means the next time, 2 weeks later, I'm coming into the same situation and I'm tempted again. That vibration, that memory of remorse can stop me from doing the next time the same, getting drunk again or whatever it may be. So that the remorse is a very powerful tool that we keep in ourselves as a reminder. And it is also the tool that we honestly mean we have understood that this is not the way to go, not the way to wake up. We want to change. And then the divinity, Christ, God, all the positive, our guardian spirit, all are here to help us. We are never alone. We have got enormous help from the other side to go through the most deepest valleys. And they help us to pull through this and convert the negativity in positive energy. So the difference between the Christ in the churches, which says just believe in Christ and he takes all the burdens away, versus what I understand, Christ transforms the burden, but it does need from us that we ask for forgiveness and be remorseful, and then the conversion will have. Otherwise, it will have no effect whatsoever.
What about when people are talking about Christ consciousness? Is that the same thing when you're saying this Christ transforming us, or is that different?
Christ consciousness, I don't know. I don't think I have used that word much. I understand. My understanding is that everything is just consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Consciousness manifesting itself in many phenomena like planets, worlds, etc., etc. And we are part of consciousness. We are consciousness. Our basic being is consciousness. So is Christ consciousness. So I'm not quite sure where I would have used that word Christ consciousness in that sense. I believe that everything is consciousness, coming out of the awareness, becoming consciousness. Nothing is matter. Nothing is. It's all vibration. It's all fluctuations of energies. Nothing else. When we look around, it's nothing else but energies and vibrations and fluctuations. And this is also us and our emotions, our burdens, our karma. Everything is just vibrations. And that vibration is consciousness. And consciousness, the characteristics of consciousness is sending and receiving, sending and receiving, sending and receiving. So that's through consciousness we have this incredible existence that we continuously grow and see and feel and have this world and worlds of creation around us and within us.
Do you think that we are all God, or we all just have a piece of God or a spark of God's energy within us?
I do not believe we are God. We are God's children. And the reason why I say this, two things. Firstly, of course, is we did not create ourselves. Someone else or something, or whatever you want to call it, created us. God, to my understanding, the energy, God, spirit is all present. It's everywhere. We are not all present. I don't think you are all present. I'm not all present. And these two big differences, that's why we cannot be God, because we are not this. I would rather say it's like a little thumb. We are part of God, but we are not God. We are made of the same energy, which is light ether, which is a consciousness, intelligence, pure intelligence. But we are not God because we did not create ourselves, and we are not all present. And the all-presentness of wanting to be all-present, wanting to be everywhere, was the main reason why the spirits at that time, shortly after creation, left the absolute reality and created what is commonly called the fall. Why countless souls have left the pure reality and fell down into lower vibrations. It was our selfish desire to be all present. That's basically it. So our desire to be God again is still with us all the time, but we are not God and we cannot be God. We can be the divine children of God, which we are, but we are not God. That is my understanding.
Some people will say that we are God and this is an illusion of being separate from God. And this is the way God experiences reality through all of us.
What a terrible God that must be. What a terrible God that must be. Just imagine you see your neighbor suffering and in pain and so on. And says, oh, my friend, don't worry. You're just God and you're just having a tough time. God is feeling himself through you. I think this is one of the most hurtful and painful and uncompassionate statements. And I know it's very popular in the New Age belief system to think that God wants to experience himself through the positive and the horrors of this world. That is very limited, very poor, and it's a very strange view of God. God is love. Would love really want to experience and give his child the experience of utter poverty, of leprosy, of pain and suffering? It makes no sense if you believe that God is love. It cannot make sense, but it is a popular belief in the New Age teachings, and I do not share that at all. I find it very insulting to the person who is suffering. That suffering person doesn't get any help when you tell them, okay, it's just God experiencing himself through you, so just enjoy it because that's what God wants to do right now with you. That doesn't work for me.
You said earlier that we are love, and when we come in this realm, I would think that our energy is reduced just by the fact of being here. How can we raise our energy to get back towards love?
Well, by undoing all their karmic burdens, which I mentioned earlier, our day-to-day. We do it step by step in small ways. We don't have to do the big things, the small things a day. Like, for instance, somebody cuts you off in traffic and you are up angry about it. Why am I angry? What's happening, etc. That's a moment to solve the issue, to come closer to God, to our true origin. Step by step, small little increments every day. Every time we're upset about something, every time we are hurt or feel pain, etc., these are instances where we can clear up that moment. So it's a small step thing. And every time we do it through finding out why is what is here not loved and what needs to be forgiven and where is an amends. So we do this with these small little steps and then hopefully not get involved into the word any much deeper. So for that, we have got the 10 Commandments, very clear and very straightforward, and the Sermon on the Mount. And I would add the third one, which is the Golden Rule. And my personal favorite is also still the Ho'oponopono. That's why I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you and thank you. To say that to everybody you meet, which basically includes the whole spiritual path. But the main thing is, don't feel overwhelmed. Oh, I must become angelic again in this lifetime, etc. You will or you will not. We can only deal with what's happening right in front of us. That is, and when people ask me, what is my purpose in life? It says, what is the problem right in front of your nose? That is your purpose. Right today, you have got some emotion, something to clear up with your daughter, with your boss, etc. That is the only purpose of your life right now.
So in totality, our purpose is just clearing karma.
That's the only reason why this is a school. Because here we also have it's a wonderful opportunity. I mentioned it, alluded earlier to it. We have a physical body. So the karma which comes to us through illness here has a buffer, and we can do medicine and we can help ourselves. So it's a blessing. So very negative karma, painful karma, which will be excruciating, difficult in the spiritual world. In this world, we can have some tools to make it less painful. So yes, we are here to clear up our karma, to become divine again, and to take the burden out of our path, to lift our vibration. And this is it's all vibration. Karmic burden hold us down, and the more we clear up, the higher our vibration becomes. It's all very simple. It's all very straightforward. There aren't many big secrets about this. When you see this clearly, it is just, as I said, amazing simplicity and genius simplicity.
So after we graduate from Earth School, what do we do next?
Oh, we continue. I mean, the Earth is the lowest sponsor so far. So we slowly have to regain our original high vibration again. So basically, as we are waking up and undoing all the stuff which we have accumulated during the fall. So we learn things, first of all, order, most important order in our life, in our thinking, in our feeling, speaking, etc. The next step would be the free will, that we have got the divine will, that we align our will, our selfish ego will, and replace it with divinity, the will for all, the will for love, for the well-being of everybody, not just for myself. And then comes wisdom, earnestness, and patience, love, and mercy. So these are the 7 steps that we slowly learn and regain again our true original sense of being, state of being.
Earlier, you were talking about the computer and how with the computer now, it's so easy to be led into temptation. I think that I heard you mention before that for the 7 sins, there are apps for them.
Yes, I know they are, but I don't remember them so much. But yes, there are apps for every 7 thing.
I think, I don't know, Twitter was for ego.
Yeah.
Do you recall any of those?
Yeah, no, I don't have them in my hand, but they are there. Yes, I guess you can Google these things. But definitely from gluttony, from whatever we have, jealousy, from hatred. I mean, there are just click on. There's an app for all of these, and people can indulge in them very easily. Yes.
So how much of our lives do we plan pre-birth? The entire thing or just major events?
I understand it's major events, and we don't plan them necessarily. They will there because our karma is stored in the repository planets. the material and semi-material universes. And when they all continuously move, and when they come to certain constellation, they download it back to us. And when we know we incarnate and we see our life plan, it's like a river. I draw it like a river. There is a video on this life before birth. And there we see when our life goes very smooth, or whether there are some problems there, and some whirlpools and so on. And these are all karmic things which are most likely happen in our life, which are sort of the planets are ready to unload this stuff in the next 70 years for us if we incarnate. So these are basically rough ideas. I don't think they are given in great detail, because we continuously have our free choice. I mentioned earlier, if we go, for instance, for the secret, and we suddenly want to become an extremely wealthy, powerful guy somewhere, and I don't know, in Russia and in China, then we may screw up all the plan and sort of go a totally different path. But we can also screw up in many smaller ways of making decisions which are not loving, and they can deviate from our original path. And these things will come back in another lifetime or in the purification spheres. It's not gone. But the best way to understand is that most of the stuff which we're experiencing are planned, and we know more or less roughly what is to be expected. We know this is a chance where you can. It's a lot of, I would say, like a fortune teller says, oh, this is a time where you probably can have an illness or whatever, etc. So we know these things. And to that, we will agree. It says, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to be sort of left alone and to be sort of be adopted, or whatever is in my life plan, because that is the best for my soul, to use those 70 years or 76 years, or whatever, to make the best of it. And it can also be only 7 minutes. A life is not depending on the length. 7 minutes incarnation, which means only a baby breathes a few breaths and dies, has achieved a lot sometimes, not only for the baby, but also for the parent as a lesson of karmic lessons. So a long life is not necessarily a blessing or something wonderful. It's just something which you had. Some people go longer to college than others. So some people who die early don't need to go much longer. So a youth who has an accident and dies maybe with 16 years, it's very horrible for the parents, I understand. But the soul didn't need to be much longer here on earth. And it's much happier on the other side. And the only thing which makes them unhappy on the other side is that the parents or the relatives or the friends are crying and mourning and holding the soul back from the path that they're supposed to continue after death. So that connection can be very painful for someone.
How are they holding the soul back?
Oh, by mourning and grieving excessively. There is a wonderful, I got an email a few years ago. It's on my website, actually. It's so beautiful. A young lady in London, she had a very close relationship to her father. And her father died, and she was able to communicate with him sort of like a clairvoyantly, speak continuously with him. She missed him dearly. She was not married and so on. So for a long time, she communicated with him and asked him still all the questions in life and so on. And one day he said, why don't you go to the computer and I'll tell you what to do? So she does this and then go to YouTube and punch in Hans Wilhelm. And she spells it. She has never heard of me. And she thought he would hear he loved opera. That would be an opera singer. And he wanted to listen to some opera. And then she punched in my name. And there comes up immediately the video on mourning and grieving. And then she saw that video and suddenly realized what she was doing, holding back her father, who had other things to do, and so on, etc. And it was such a relief for everybody that she wrote me this long email, and I find it rather funny in a way too. But when we mourn excessively, of course, we have to adjust to it. Let's not deny our pain we have if somebody dies. That would be wrong, not to deny it. Be honest, feel this loss. It's like losing an arm or a hand. It just doesn't happen overnight. Just can't shake it off. But there is a time when it's getting too much, when we cry too long, too much for the person to come back, and why could he do this, and why is he gone, and so on, etc. And all these thoughts are holding the soul back. The soul cannot move on. Very often the soul is with us and tries to communicate, but it's usually not. We are not open to that. And that is a problem, that we excessive mourning. And in many cases, and I made a book about this, I Will Always Love You. It's based on Dr. Kübler-Ross's teaching. Excessive mourning is very often somebody who thinks he has failed to verbalize I love you, which means a person who has not verbally said I love you to the person who has died. They may think they know it, but they never said it, verbally said it. And this guilt often creates excessive mourning.
I used to study acupuncture and I used to practice it, a version of it, medical acupuncture. And one of the things that we learned was that sometimes a person won't let the other person go on the other side, basically what you're saying. And it even winds up for them getting physically sick over here by not letting go.
Yeah, we totally mesh it. Yeah, we hold too tight to it. And of course, it affects both. Yeah, this holding back is not healthy. We do not respect that the other person is a totally separate, in a way, entity who has his own life lessons to learn. And we also, it's our ego. We cling to the person because we believe that person belongs to us. Nobody belongs to us. Our children don't belong to us. Carl Gilbrand has this wonderful poem. They come through us, but they are not of us. And they're not belong to us. But we believe that a person, life partner, children, they are our children, my children, and therefore I have a right to and how can they die? They're missing out this wonderful life here on earth. How do I know what life they are missing? We are very full of ourselves when it comes to their projection. But that is true, that we can really, the people are so tight. But of course, not only that, but sometimes we have got also spirit possession to the point that they merge together within someone else. So you do have several entities sometimes in the body as well, but that's another story. But yes, clinging onto the person who has died is understandable in the initial shock when suddenly died. But then let us remember that this person needs to go his own way. And when we understand that, it's like somebody leaving college earlier. We're not making too much fuss about that either. We will meet again in another somewhere later in our business life or whatever we do. But we won't be sort of too upset about it. And this is the same thing. And the early Christians, they did celebrate death. They did not wear black. They celebrated it in a way of a relief from the earthly pain and suffering. So they respected that. And there are still some other spiritual minded cultures who do celebrate the death, the relief of the earthly being. The Catholic, no, I should say not only the Catholic Church, but the Christian Church has done horror about this whole thing, about this wearing black. It's awful. Oh, I have to tell you, it's a good story. I read it last night. There's a wonderful little book. I don't have it. It's called The Boy Who Saw True. It's a diary of some boy in 19th century who wrote. He was 12 years old and he had the gift of a vision. He could see spirits and so on. And he writes this wonderful thing. His uncle had just died, had a lot of money. So his parents then dressed all in black and so on and made a miserable face and so on. And asked the kids to wear black and so on. He says, I don't understand this black thing. They're trying to make so miserable because I see their souls. They are very happy. They have inherited a lot of money. Deep down, I know they're actually happy. I think that was so funny. So that's just a story where sometimes we put on this thing, oh, I have to suffer. And I think it's also very important. I lost both my parents and I lost other loved ones. And I was usually very confident and communicated my feeling. And particularly when my mother died, she was a slow death, 2 years cancer. And we children were with her and also with my father. We were elated when the soul left the body. We were actually nearly jubilant. We wanted to have a great celebration, but of course the aunts and uncles wouldn't hear that. They wanted the usual stuff. But we felt in our heart no remorse, no sadness. We felt absolutely joy for the soul of our mother who had left this very awful diseased body. And so very often when we really are with the person and have shared everything with the person, what is in our heart, and told them that we love them, there may not be any feelings of mourning. And don't be surprised if there is no feeling. Some people say, oh, I should be mourning, but I'm not really feeling mourning. I'm feeling sign. I don't feel that. And it's okay. You don't feel it because you have said goodbye in a wonderful way, and you have communicated your feelings and your expression and what you felt to the person, and vice versa. And that's all which matters, because the last words we should say to everyone is, I love you. And when we have said that and truly meant it, the mourning can be very, very short, if at all.
I've heard you mention the repository planets, and that's where karma is stored. Can you tell me more about those planets?
There are the planets in the material and semi-material planets. Yeah, we are what we can call the whole purification spheres the cosmic causal computer. The whole thing is nothing. It works exactly like a computer. Everything vibration that is here against the law of love is stored. It's stored in our body, in the genes, in the Akashic records, in our memories, as well as in the repository planets. And the repository planets also work on the law of like attracts like. So all the murderous thoughts come together, or the etc., all the negativity will come together. And they are there stored and eventually come back, because no energy ever gets lost. And they move like all planets, and sometimes they are full, and they download the stuff back to the sender, back to us. But before they send it, and this is very important to remember, particularly when it's a major karma, they always send us signals before that something is going to happen. Clear it up now before the bulk of your karma comes back to you. We have that, for instance, a typical example is when we start coughing, we are smoking and we're starting coughing and coughing and coughing. I mean, the coughing is a clear sign that maybe there's some lung cancer coming up or not. And we have that in in all instances, that there are certain signs that, oh, really? Wow, this is funny. I never thought about it. And that we suddenly wake up of something which is not yet serious and big, but a warning there. And that's why, as I said earlier, let's watch the day-to-day building blocks. That's the karmic coming back to us. The big karma comes always with a warning before. That is the love of God, the love of grace, where it says, look, I give you this grace. I send you this little signal. Try to clear it up now. There is a big fuss coming up with your brother-in-law, and you might fight with him, but you have now the chance to just give him a call, etc., and do it and make it sort of maybe in an easy and loving way to solve the problem, which if you do not do, may blow up into something very, very big. Our conscience tells us exactly what to do and what needs to be done. So it's a law of grace coming back to us and says, you have just, we are constantly loved, we are constantly supported. So our karma never needs to be as bad as we have originally given it to other people. There's nothing really to fear. We have to just go through it, and we go through it with the help and guidance of divinity, and ask them also to convert whatever can be converted back into light, back into love.
A lot of times on this channel, we talk about the ascension. Do you ever talk or think about that? And if so, what are your thoughts?
Can you define your understanding of the ascension?
People will say that, or we'll talk about the planets going under ascension and everybody's energy is raising.
My understanding is very similar. I have made a video on that one as well, about the overpopulation, why we do have presently the overpopulation here on this planet. We never had that until 100 years ago. It was very slow curve, and then it does. The reason is quite simple. Souls are aware that the Earth goes very soon through a major drastic change. And for this reason, this is one of the last opportunities for souls to incarnate and clear up their karma. So the souls are coming here en masse, by the millions, to incarnate and have this life here, one of the last life here on planet Earth, last time to come to college Earth here and experience it, because it takes so much longer in the purification spheres, as we have discussed. So that is the reason why we have got this tremendous overpopulation, and many, many souls don't find the right appropriate bodies anymore, because we have got birth control, we have abortion, and so on. So in many cases, these souls then have to go to the third world countries where their life is pretty miserable, but they don't mind doing this because it's a short time only. And yes, we are going through this very difficult time. And I believe it's getting more difficult and more challenging. The earth is going into a higher dimension, and it will be a separation of souls who are either going with it and also going in higher vibration, and some souls who rather like to stay on a lower frequency. I'm not, I don't know the details how it will work with the earth. There are so many stories out there, but I know that those souls who are not prepared to move on and to grow and to advance themselves will have to stay in some areas where it takes eons and eons for them to slowly progress. But those who have taken these years to learn and to clear up some of the karma will then be in the purification spheres and continue. So the answer to your question is yes, I do believe that the earth is going onto a higher vibration. It's all vibration, it's everything. And many souls will be left behind, whilst others will go with it.
What are the purification spheres that you talk about?
Well, the purification spheres are the absolute reality consists of 7 dimensions. There are order, will, wisdom, earnestness, patience, love, and mercy. These are vibrations, but they're all vibrations. And in this, we have got all the planets and all the universes, etc. They're all different kind of qualities, like a rainbow, all different things. When the fall happened, these 7 dimensions went into the reversal in the 4 region. We have got the same 4 regions here, and we slowly have to progress. As I said earlier, we have to firstly start with order again. We have to bring order into our life, into our family, into our home, into our mind, most of all. And then we have to slowly learn to surrender our ego will to the divine will, and then acquire wisdom, and then etc. So it just goes through this purification spheres. And in the lower 4 purification spheres, of which planet Earth is at the lowest, there we have got what we call the Christ energy, Christ consciousness, maybe as you use this, which helps us to convert the negative karma into light again, into love again, and with which we can move forward and can move up. From the 4th onwards, it's the pulling energy of God, which pulls us then up to the final divinity, back to the absolute reality. I think it's very important for us to remember there are a lot of New Age teaching that says that we are sort of like cavemen and we slowly have to become an angel again. That is not what I believe in my understanding. We have been angels. We have been divine beings, powerful divine beings, children of God, absolutely, without blemish, love, presentation of love. And we have just, through selfishness, fallen all the way down, and now we return back. It is the story of the prodigal son, one of the most important stories ever told, where he eventually returns back to his father's home. This is basically our life story.
Would you say that the story of the prodigal son in our reality is Lucifer?
The prodigal son to me is myself. It's everybody. It's myself, because I have left the pure heaven, and the story, if for you familiar, not maybe with that story, not everybody is born Christian and knows that story. It is the young man in a wealthy home asks his father to have his whole inheritance and go into the world and leave his home, his farm and so on, which rich estate. Father didn't really want him to go, but he allows the free will. So the son goes into the world with the inheritance, which is energy, and uses it all up, squanders it. Loose women, etc., and all the fun you can sleep, all the fun of the internet. Gets lost, lands up in a pigsty and so on, as has nothing to eat anymore, and remembers in the lowest form, like an alcoholic, hitting bottom, lowest vibration, says, they're at my father's home, the servants are living better than I'm living. I will go back to my father's and want to be at least a servant there. So he returns slowly back to the father, and when the father sees him, just in a typical Jewish way, he just sort of has a new schmatter, new grass, and then something to eat, has a big fest. So feast, so it's a big warm welcome. And that story is the story of our existence. We have fallen down so low. That's why we have all the suffering around us. Everywhere there is suffering and pain and suffering. We are in this pigsty right now. And for those who understand it, let's go back to where it was warm, where it was secure, where it was safe, our true origin. So all we are saying is we have to become what we already have been. We don't have to learn anything new. We just have to remember what we have been, which is always love, love, love. That's why every obstacle, every challenge which we have, if we meet it with love, forgiveness, remorse, etc., we are slowly bringing up our vibration and clearing up all the negativity that surrounds our soul.
I have so many near-death experience guests that will say that the most important thing is love. And I've found it fascinating that you said love is not an emotion.
No.
So what would you describe love to be then if it's not an emotion? When you experience it, it's like extreme joy or bliss, I guess, especially on the other side.
That is our true existence. That is the vibration we have. Yes, maybe we can feel it that way. I agree with you, but it is not an emotion as such. It is our existence. All the others are just sort of things, temporary things. But love is not a temporary thing. Love is what we are continuously. We came from love and we would stay love. We are eternal being. We do not die. So we are made of this love energy, which is light ether, which is intelligence, which is awareness. Many, many words we have for that. But it is not... when we are in love with another person, that's very often sort of an ego feeling and so on, etc. Somebody fulfills a lack which I have and so on. It's wonderful to have somebody who is now taking over my finances or gives me enough sex or whatever. That's a little bit different. That's a personal love. But the big love is what we truly are. And when we truly understand that, but then we remind ourselves of this love, we also make different choices, I think. I've done it sometimes in life, slowly learning to be from a loving point. Look, I want to be very clear. I'm just on the low grade. I'm learning this whole stuff and I'm trying to apply it. I am not in any way advanced in that way, but as a mystic, I try to apply it. And through what is it now, 50 years or whatever, I have known about these laws and understanding. I know that they work. And whenever I do these things and see the reaction, my belief is no longer a belief, it's a knowing. It's the same like somebody, do you believe in God? I do not believe in God. I know of God, but my knowing cannot be transferred to someone else. We all have to go through this own inner experience to really make a belief into a knowing. I know for myself that what I've shared with you today works for me and is for me the truth as I see it now. I cannot expect or understand, I don't accept anybody else to also know that or even believe it. It comes through trying these things out and see how it works. What happens when I truly ask for forgiveness and change it over and make a different life and understand and see the other person as a being, angelic being as well, and see the Christ spark in them. So there are so many things we can do, and how I shift and my own shift, I feel like from a negative vibration to a positive vibration. And that for me registers and says, this is a path which works for me.
Besides what you've already told us on resolving our karma, can you give us any other advice or practical things that we can do in our daily lives to raise our energy and live a better life?
Well, the first thing which comes to mind is gratefulness. Gratefulness, gratefulness, gratefulness. Any moment you have a thought free or whatever, use it for something to be grateful, whatever it is, maybe the computer, maybe your spectacles, whatever it is. Be grateful, grateful, grateful. That gives immediately puts a protection. I made a video called Gratefulness, or how gratefulness works, how it protects us immediately. When we bring ourselves into the vibration of gratefulness, something happens very drastically. Chemical in our brain change and so on, and we feel better. And the result is happiness. Happiness doesn't come, happiness is a decision, and the decision comes when we are grateful. Grateful is the first step. So the one thing we can do is gratefulness. It immediately lifts us into another vibration, into a higher vibration. When there is a secureness, you feel empowered, you feel rich by being grateful. And that strength is so powerful that we can make better choices and better decisions. When we understand it, that the whole life is here to support us. And when we understand, and there's in my video, I mentioned there is a test done in San Diego, I think, University, which is very helpful, is to think of 5 points why we are grateful for a certain person or a job or a condition, whatever it is. Not just, oh, I'm grateful for my partner, whatever. It says, I'm grateful for my partner because she does this, and she does this, and she does this. Suddenly it changes. It becomes very concrete. So that is really something which they tested out is a very helpful thing. But if you ask me something, the number one thing to do is to feel the gratefulness, because we can do it at any time throughout the day, particularly when we feel low energy, when we feel we are sort of lost, lonely, depressed, whatever it is. Is there anything I can be grateful for right now? I mean, the fact that I have a hand, many people don't have hands or no feet anymore. They can't speak, they can't see. Things we take so for granted are not things everybody in this world has. So let us be grateful for whatever comes to our mind and feel that gratefulness flooding us. And see my video on how gratefulness works. And once you see how it works and how it protects us, it's like an armor around us, all the negativity, because we are constantly bombarded by negative energy. I mentioned the negative entities. That's one thing, but we have got our cell phone. We have got noises. We have got so much negativity around us, and everything continuously over the time can make us really antsy and negative about it is. And the best protection is just to hold in and says, what can I be, deep breath, what can I be grateful for right now? And our focus shifts. And when our focus shifts on something very simple, whatever it is, that I do have an iPhone and I can phone my family at home and say, hello, I love you. It's this simple thing. Everything, because we are what we think about. Then we do not think about the noises, etc. around us. We think about what we are grateful for. And our power floods us, our thought floods us with positiveness. So that, I would say, is probably the most powerful thought, the powerful thing we can do. Forget about karma, just irrespective of karma.
All right, we've mentioned your videos. What is the name of your YouTube channel?
lifeexplained.com. Under YouTube, you just put in my name, it comes up immediately, Hans Wilhelm. Or I have a website on lifeexplained.com where the videos are as well in a different order, as well as an introduction, background, etc., the usual things. And what I have on this website is all the books which I have studied and taken stuff from, and they're not my books. They're books from all different sources. I put them on the website, book recommendations. So my videos are not based on just one teaching. They are based on teachings from many different sources, and they all come together, in my view, and they make all sense. So anybody who wishes to study more, at the end of many of my videos, I mention the book from where I took it. So it's not to believe me. That is the last thing I want anybody following me. I have enough karma, so I don't need that. But I want to point to books and to websites or whatever I mentioned there, where people can find more. I said it earlier about the possessive spirits. Go to these books written by professional people. Don't take my word for it, and let them guide you to find a way out of this.
You're really busy with your YouTube channel. Do you have anything else that you're working on that you want us to know about?
Well, I just re-released 6 books for children, spiritual books, which are sort of tell me about God, about Christ, about dying, about Christmas, and that I have on my website as well. That just came out this month. I am a children book author and illustrator for the most part, and I still do that and continuous. That is my income. That's why my videos have no advertisement. They're totally self-funded. They also don't ask for donations. So all this thing is totally free, and I'm just merely offer it. And as I use this channel for myself to grow and understand as well. So my real business, because I also have a website, hanswilhelm.com, where I have all the books which I've written and illustrated over the last, 40 years or so. And I continue that, much less than in the past, but I still keep my hand at it, and it's fun, and I enjoy that.
After watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you up for that?
Definitely. I try to answer if I can. Go to my websites, either on hanswilhelm.com or lifeexplained.com. jeffmara.com, and there's a contact page where you can write your question on that one. I don't want to give my email address over the internet, so that will link it automatically to me, and I definitely read them. This is a one-man show. I don't have a team working for me, so I will. Sometimes it takes a few days before I answer it, but I'm happy to answer any question anybody may have.
All right, Hans, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
Comes back immediately on gratefulness. Be grateful, grateful, grateful that you had watched this channel. Even if you may not agree with anything you said, at least it helped you to sort out your own mind. For anything that you have, find whatever it is to be grateful for, and everything will come to you, because this is, I can't overestimate so much the power of gratefulness. It brings you into another vibration very quickly, very instantly, and from there only good things can come.
Hans, thank you for that message, and thank you again for being my guest.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you for the wonderful work you do to help people to find their path. Thank you. It was a great honor and pleasure to have met you and have spoken with you.
Likewise. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.